I've just finished Presumed Innocent.
Oh yeah,
We talked about it, briefly on the show last week. Yeah, I'm not going to do a review, but basically, it's fine. It's watchable. Anna thought it was better. She quite liked it. I don't think I was ever, hooked. I think it was, very well produced, everyone doing a good job, solid. But
it looks good on a reel for Apple to be and our great content this year,
Innocent,
Severance, Presumed Innocent.
And I did find it a little bit soulless. I was waiting for the moment for me to be really but I never really happened. Anyway, did you know it was also a film with Harrison Ford in 1990?
No,
yeah, it was a film.
great.
It was based off a book.
Did I know that?
Yeah,
Maybe
I did.
Maybe I'd heard that.
Anyway, the reason I bring it up again is because I know I'm a bit late to it, a month or so late to it, but there's one very peculiar thing with Presumed Innocent, the TV show, which is that, a stellar cast, and there's one character of the DA, the newly elected DA, and the performance from the actor is very interesting. And let me just describe this. So you've got Jake Gyllenhaal, and you've got Ruth Negga, and you've got Peter Sarsgaard, and then you've got this DA who does everything with an open mouth. He'll go, Tommy, when you said you didn't like Rusty Savage, what was the reason for that? And every time he would be on, every time he would be on camera, his mouth would just be open, sort of waiting, and he'd have this sort of lilting. Well, my worry is about the procedure with the justice. And every time he was on screen, I kept thinking, that's an interesting
he's midway through a stroke.
And Anna and I would be like, is he? Yeah, it's like he's had some dental surgery that afternoon, and he's just or he's just bitten the bottom of his. It's almost Brando.
I was going to say
that was a bit Brando. No, but it's a rusty. It's a little bit more lilting. Anyway, I'm just thinking this is an interesting decision, but okay.
Sort of unaffected, dry.
Yeah, but Anna and I had never seen this actor in anything else before, so we're like, I guess you cast the guy, he comes in, he does the thing, whatever. But it was a prominent recurring. I mean, this also gained a bit of traction online. That there was an article being in defense of this guy's accent. Anyway,
As an actor, you never want that.
No, you never want that. And I went online afterwards just to find more about this actor, and I find this clip. And not only is he British, but he does not talk like that at all. There's this clip of him going, when I read the script, I was just so mesmerised. I was so involved.
So he's gone, I've got the coolest voice for this, yeah.
But this is the thing. It's a creative decision. He's gone, okay, district attorney, why don't I have my mouth open halfway through? Tommy, did you know Caroline Polimas?
Ripley. It's almost drifting into Ripley, arch delivery.
But it's interesting, but I would say that sometimes when you're dealing with technical legal words and legal sentences, you can't have a voice that collapses the barriers between each word. So it goes, and the thing about criminal justice in Chicago, like a wasp was just stuck in
Chicago.
The rat cat. Yeah, they can. Yeah. Oh no, that's Boston. But then they go rat climbing in Chicago. Oh, Chicago. Oh, that's Canada. Oh, about there. Hey, or Minnesota. Hey,
you're getting close with Chicago.
Yeah, that's right. Across the bay.
Yeah. As always, please do check out Dave Armison's accent review. Sorry, not David Armisen. Fred Armison's accent.
David Armisen?
I don't know. It sounds like it could exist.
His brother.
Fred Armison's accent sweep of America. It's very good.
Fantastic. I also have some other stuff to talk about.
Please.
So I was chatting with a friend of mine the other day who works in VFX.
Nice.
And I in talking to her about the way that VFX is applied, which is often a very much maligned part of the creative industries. It's the first thing people say, we shot this practically without CGI, without VFX. And you're like, VFX is not big explosions always, it's down to the minutiae. And her work sounds incredible. She's fixed skylines and period set skylines, things like that. And she was telling me that this one big TV series that she worked on that came out this year that I won't name because I don't want to comment on my friend's work. I just want to keep it separate. But she was talking about how VFX was applied on such a minute level so that one of the actors in it, unbeknownst to them, had was very sensitive to light. So there's this scene where they walk outside and the light hits them, and the actor just thinks they're sort of just taking in the morning air, but actually they're doing quite a repeated blink, and they VFX'd their eyes so they have a normal blink.
Wow.
There's a scene where they're walking up a hill, and in this scene they need to be wearing a warm and happy expression. However, in this particular scene, the actor looked quite moody and dour.
Put a smile on that face.
They literally went in and fixed that. And I was quite astonished by that. Not only is it meticulous, we would never see that level of detail, but it's also kind of bordering on the point where it's like, where does the acting stop and the VFX?
Do you sort of surrender yourself once you've given your your platform of what you offered, and is that now just in the hands of whoever wants it?
I think so. I think it's like if you're an actor and you're in a certain budget level of production, you kind of surrender that. And we were talking, for example, we were talking about Beetlejuice, and I mentioned that Catherine O'Hara, an actor I really like, very talented. Like, what I found interesting is that, if you look at Catherine O'Hara on the red carpet talking to people, she looks like herself. She, and she's someone who's just like, unlike a lot of people in Hollywood, is just like aged gracefully and just like is her age. But then in the film, she's got like luminous, glowing, flawless skin.
Right.
But she's still the age that she is. And my
gave
friend
her
was
a bit of a hand.
like, yeah, absolutely. All the stars in that film, even General Ortega, probably, my friend didn't work on this film, will have had VFX touch-ups done to their face, because there's a practical reason, which is you want the audience to associate the fact that Winona Ryder and Catherine O'Hara are the same characters from the 30 years prior.
Yeah.
So you want to get them in just looking as much like that as possible.
It's probably very true in the film we're talking about later, in The Substance, with Margaret Qualley, who's meant to play this vision of perfection and beauty. Like, I've no doubt, even though Margaret Qualley, daughter of Annie MacDowell, obviously gorgeous,
all that free
right.
Clarins she got when she was younger.
just dripping all over the
cupboards full of Clarins.
Those kids played with My Little Pony. She was just bashing Clarins together.
Such a niche reference. I don't know if that was even a worldwide advert, but Andy McDowell always did the Clarins adverts.
And it's like her face, like glowing in the white. Yeah. But anyway, I'm sure even for Margaret Qualley, she would have be in that role. But it's difficult. We'll get into The Substance, but you're talking about presenting a perfect version of beauty, or what's meant to be people's perfect perception of beauty. You're still portraying it on screen as something that's perfect. And having it sit there, and you're presenting perfection, even if it's not.
But also this idea that, are we losing something of like the rough and like rawness of filmmaking when you're getting to the point where you're like, oh, I don't like that blink there, get rid of that. Oh, that person's eyes look strange.
And when it's so easy to sanitize and clean up every single shot, do we end up with cinema that looks overly tidy, overly clean? And that's why, like we said this the other day, it's why filmmakers are looking to dirty up their frame, use things that are old to make themselves stand out from everything else that is clean.
But that's an interesting little insight. I didn't know VFX was that minute.
I feel like the VFX world is actually largely quite sort of underground and underexposed, no pun intended. Like, it doesn't really feel like it's talked about enough. Like, the actual minutiae and the cogs of getting a film, like, even if it is a huge Avengers film, for example, like, how do you start with a scene with the rushes after it's been graded? What has to be done? What compositing are you doing? Because in commercial, what I do, like, sky replacements are very common. So there's like a particular hotel brand we work with all the time, and because they're a hotel brand, they cannot have a cloudy sky. You cannot sell a holiday if it is raining or cloudy. So it's very common you just change the sky. Is that false advertising? Maybe.
Well, yeah. I think it's fine. As long as the sky can look like that. That's the thing. If the sky can, and the same thing with like putting an actor's face on their own face. Yeah. It's like, well, if they made that expression at some point, then sure.
We shot a particular one in Scotland in December, where there are maybe 3 hours of sunlight, like a day.
And the Bahamas.
And it was such a weird shoot, because I don't know what you want me to do here, because it's 2:45 and it's getting dark, and it's been cloudy all day. Like, is any of this usable? And they're like, we'll replace the sky, set the white balance warm. That's funny.
Welcome to episode 147 of Pulp Kitchen. Last week, we sat on Primrose Hill and we did a whole run-through of underrated movies, overrated franchises.
A lot of you tuned in for that episode. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was a really good one. I'm glad. And loads of really nice comments saying they loved the whole look of it, the more relaxed nature, me and you sitting on the grass. If you haven't seen it, please, by all means, go and check out last week's episode.
Get wafts of the last of the summer air.
It really was the very last of the summer that we took advantage
of. Look at us. We're in. James is in a very autumnal knit today.
Yeah, we've got the knits out. Bye linens and Cubans and
in
vests.
Jumpers and sweats.
Here it is now.
And welcome new listeners. Hello, regular listeners. Last week we did all that talking about, like I said, random questions. This week we will be talking about satirical body horror movie, The Substance. Almost called it The Satire. James will also be talking about the first episode of The Penguin.
Yep, more of our first impressions, but yeah, we'll be sort of giving an insight to that if you guys have seen it too.
And also, we did a double take this week, as ever, on Patreon. You can subscribe to this for exclusive content. We talked about
Thunderbolts, new Marvel trailer.
Blitz, Steve McQueen's new movie.
Cillian Murphy's got a new folksy Irish film coming out. Very grounded, very sort of... He's going back to his roots.
It looks awards heavy. Awards. It looks good. It's
still
good drama.
kind of doing a 1,000-yard stare, but yeah.
He does have a 1,000-yard stare. That's probably... At Los Alamos, we had a 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah. That's going to be his thing.
He is Diet Daniel Plainview in Oppenheimer.
Yes, yeah.
He's doing, we build a town and build it fast.
Build it,
and then we'll look over there. And if he
stayed
in the desert a few years longer, then he would have built Los Alamos and will be drilling for oil.
Who's his Paul Dano? Is it Matt Damon?
Probably. I don't remember.
Not quite.
Or the Josh Hartnett. Or,
Say it.
Yeah.
I want to use hydrogen instead of plutonium. Say it. That's a really niche science reference for that.
Yes, back to what we're talking about. So that's happening on the Patreon.
Separately, we just wanted to acknowledge that we're going to be changing the way some of our subscriptions work on the feed. So we addressed this on our episode of Double Take for people that subscribe to us, but just an FYI for people who subscribe to us on Spotify. Originally, when we set up Patreon, we started Double Take. It's been great. We're loving doing the new show. And Spotify had this opportunity to offer the same subscription within Spotify, which we both thought fantastic. That allows wherever people want to watch and enjoy the show can do. What that's done, unfortunately, which we're not really happy with, is it's changed the way episodes appear on our feed. And because we offer ad-free episodes with our subscription on Spotify, what we don't like is that Spotify double posts, as I'm sure you've seen, our main episode with one as is and one with an uninterrupted. And what we have felt, and what I think a couple of people have mentioned to us, is that our actual main feed on our Spotify and on other apps has come to look a bit cluttered, and a lot of the clutter is stuff which is unavailable to people who don't subscribe. And when we sort of announced that we were going to start doing Patreon, we really wanted to make sure that for people who didn't want to subscribe to us, Pulp Kitchen, as you knew and love it, wouldn't change. But we're conscious of this now becoming a little bit too cluttered. The unfortunate thing is that it's a really irritating technical hitch that we can't switch easily. We are going to fix it, but as it stands for right now, it's going to take us 30 days once we action it to do so.
So we basically need to kind of change the way we're doing our subscription, and just we've already mentioned it to our subscribers in Double Take, so please bear with us for that. But if you're currently following the episodes and thinking, God, this feed's a little bit cluttered, we know about it. We're sorry about it. We are trying to fix it, and it will be fixed, and in a few months' time it will be done.
It's only really an issue if you subscribe to us specifically on Spotify. So once we action our transition, you'll have your subscription will technically be cancelled, but we will fulfill all of our obligations within the 30 days that you will have already paid for. So we're not just going to cut you off because you will have paid for 30 days worth of content. Once that's done, we will make a switch, change the way our subscription works, and then you can resubscribe. I know it's irritating. You might have to resub to us on Spotify, which is annoying. We realized the best time to do this was always sooner rather than later. But we just ultimately wanted to make it the smoothest, easiest way for anyone who wants to listen to us or support us on any platform can do so. So we apologize if it's been a bit cluttered. We're conscious if people have been trying to discover us and you come to our feed and maybe 3 out of the 4 most recent posts, because if it was Double Take and a bonus episode or something, that was paid for. We don't want that to happen. We want you to basically just find the content. So that's that.
Yeah, so we will be fixing that. Anyway, should we get on with the show?
Let's do it. So, George, The Penguin, spin-off of Matt Reeves's The Batman. Matt Reeves?
Yeah, Matt Reeves.
Matt Reeves is.
Yeah, because it ends in an S, isn't it?
The Batman. A film we both really liked, and I think a lot of people liked. I can't quite tell post-Batman how much The Batman has really established itself in the pop culture mindset. I don't hear people talking about it that much.
Oh, no, I see lots of reels and TikToks of people really... I think it's accepted that was a landmark film, and for a lot of people, it's either better than The Dark Knight for them. It's either their generation's Dark Knight.
Probably.
Or if they prefer The Dark Knight, they still respect it very much.
Yeah.
I think it's covered a lot of bases.
It needs its sequel to come out and really sort of double down on it. But we thought it was really, really brilliant. And I remember when that film was coming out and reviewing it, it was really strikingly gothic and noir, and it had so much style, and it had this wonderful black and red thing, and it was very evocative marketing. The Batman, Robert Pattinson cast as Batman, which I always thought was very interesting. And within that film, you had a really interesting performance from Colin Farrell as the Penguin. The Penguin, the Penguin, who is Oswald Cobblepot, thank you.
Is that such a name?
Oswald Cobblepot, yeah, he's an iconic.
That sounds like the Fat Controller in Thomas the Tank Engine. Hello, I'm Oswald Cobblepot.
Or Oz, as his friends will know him. And it's this really sort of
unrecognizable.
Unrecognizable in the best way. Colin Farrell was completely lost in this incredible Penguin performance, and I think this is the kind of spin-off series that I think you and I usually sneer at a little bit, where we go, sorry, you're going to do a limited series with what character now? And but there are a lot of things that look very good about it. It's in the Matt Reeves world, which is already quite well drawn and great, and it's going to be an HBO show, and they sort of HBO very rarely miss. And yeah, this trailer came out and it looked promising, and we just had the first episode, which has come out. And so this really interestingly is obviously set within the Matt Reeves Batman world, but I found immediately this show really has its boots on the ground. Yeah. And even though Batman didn't actually do that much flying in the Batman, it was sort of like overly dramatic and cinematic in this. This is sort of in the equivalent of the Bronx and Queens of the New York equivalent of Gotham, and we're getting to know this character of the Penguin.
May I just say at this point, is Matt Reeves involved in any way? Has he directed any episodes?
He's got a producer credit. He's not directing it as far as I can see. And the cinematography is different. So we have the amazing Greg Fraser on the original Batman, and this one is Darren Tierman. But yeah, so as with, if you watch the end of the Batman, Carmine Falcone, legendary mafia boss, has been killed. And what that means, there's now this void, this vacuum of power for the crime leaders of Gotham. And Oswald Cobblepot is very keen to fill that void and start manipulating the other mob families in Gotham. So immediately his son, is it Anthony? Oh, this Carmine Falcone's son is the next obvious person to take up that mantle. But Penguin, let's just say, disposes of him in the opening scene. It's not a spoiler, it's not like the opening scene. And so what that does is you've got this sort of murder mystery where we've seen it all happen, and you've got the other families trying to figure out who's killed him. You've got Christine Milioti, who plays Sophia Falcone, who's just been released from Arkham Asylum, so she's obviously mental, but she's now in charge of all. I've always enjoyed Christine Milioti and stuff.
Yeah,
she's always been really good. She's popped up. We've done a lot of work with great directors. And I had a really good time with it. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, it's just the first episode of a mini series, but I think it's a really great way of taking an established, beloved universe. It's still dripping with style. I really like how the Penguin, who is an inherently unlikable, unattractive-looking villain in the film, has been very well humanized, but he hasn't lost the sense of exactly who he is. But they do quite well to sort of show him in sort of, taking off his boots at the end of the day in a way you never would have seen. That moment would have never gotten any time in the Batman, but it doesn't feel small stakes. I still just enjoyed that. You've got the injection of a character called Victor Aguilar, who's one of this gang of kids who try to sort of loot his car. And at one point, the Penguin catches up to him and he tries to shoot them all down, but he manages to catch this one kid and he says, "Listen, you're not going anywhere. You're coming with me." And throughout the whole episode, I didn't know if the Penguin was going to shoot him in the back at any point or keep him as like an ally. So you've got this unlikely partnership of people, sort of one's the mentor and one's the learner. And yeah, it's promising. I mean, like, we'll see where it goes, but it's very interesting to look at. Performances are great. It's still dripping with style. It's that I never watched Gotham with Ben McKenzie from the OC, and so I don't really know how well that took the Batman and sort of like made it small scale, but I'm really enjoying, of all the sort of studio spin-off character miniseries we get, this is sort of a good nudge into how you do that kind of storytelling.
And Colin Farrell, great as ever.
Yeah, just brilliant. You completely forget.
Yeah.
In all the wonderful ways. I can't notice any like Colin Farrell mannerisms. Yeah. His voice is completely lost in the Penguin. It's just brilliant. The design of him is also fantastic. Yeah. He's scarred and he's just hobbling around, but they do a lot more time with the camera right in his face, so you really feel like, at least at this early stages, I'm getting to understand a bit more about who this character is. There's loads of references to, The Sopranos, Breaking Bad. Right. Sort of for me, not them. Like Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Scarface. Like you can just totally see, like, you liked these things. What if we did that and set it in a really interestingly shot Gotham?
So. I saw a clip about Colin Farrell. Again, also could have mentioned last week, another great actor, one of my favorites.
Really good.
Rarely misses. Yeah. In how he obviously is under a huge amount of prosthetics, and he said, and in a fat suit, which would raise his core temperature very, very quickly. And they initially tried to get around it by lowering the temperature in the room in which they were shooting it. But the problem was is that the crew would come in scarves and coats, and it was just unworkable. So what they did, they had a mobile tent that would follow him around. That was like a mobile, like an air-conditioned tent. And so in between takes, not setups, in between takes of in scenes, he would walk into this tent, and where there would be like 3 air conditioners, and he'd blast him. He would just be in there for like a minute, walk back out, do the next take, walk back in. That's how he got through being under layers of prosthetic.
I wonder why they didn't use have you seen the cool suits that they used in The Hobbit for the dwarves? It's like they wear layers and layers of stuff, and it's like a cold vest you wear on your skin, and it shoots cold water into yourself, so your core temperatures. I don't know.
Like a Fremen suit,
kind of like exactly like an opposite Fremen suit. I saw Colin Farrell was saying that. This was when he was talking about the Batman. He was like, I was so liberated and lost in this character, and like prosthetic for him became really liberating to do that character. And then him talking about this series, he was like, I've never been so excited at the idea of jumping back into a character before, but like the idea of fleshing it out was so exciting to him, and it's just great. I can tell he's enjoying himself.
Good,
but he feels complicated. He feels nuanced.
How many episodes are you getting?
I think 8.
Okay,
I think 8 or 9. Yeah. But just like it's just first episode. But all I can say is that I enjoyed it. The reviews are very positive. I check it out. It's good fun.
Excellent.
It's gorgeous to look at. Good bit of telly.
And how does that compare with Agatha?
So that's the thing. So I don't want to review Agatha or do like a proper first impressions of Agatha all along, but I want to mention it because they offered up 2 episodes for the premiere, and I watched the first one. And I just really, it's not like I had a particularly bad time. I just felt nothing, and I had no interest in continuing.
So this is the Disney Plus.
And Agatha all along, if you saw, this is a spin-off series for the MCU. If you saw WandaVision, which is actually one of the better TV shows they've done, this is exactly the kind of thing that when it was announced, you and I went, what? Yeah. Why? Is that a joke? I'm really happy for Catherine Hahn, who in that series I think is brilliant. And she's really good in everything she did. Yeah, I saw this interview where she was like, she found out all about it when she was on the set of Glass Onion, and she was absolutely thrilled. And I'm like, you've always been a supporting character, Catherine Hahn, in almost everything that she's done.
Is she in Glass Onion?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just like, I'm trying to place her in that movie. Yeah. She is in that movie, isn't she? What's her character again?
She's one of them.
She's not Kate Hudson. She's
like one of the people.
She's one of the people who hangs out with Ed Norton. You're absolutely right. Sorry, I forgot. So even though I just said I love Catherine Hahn, you're absolutely right. Sorry,
but never a leading lady. No, yeah. Just always. She's done a lot of rom-coms and like McConaughey. Like she played the friend in a lot of McConaughey rom-coms, and she's great. And I think she was brilliant in WandaVision, and she totally is able to carry the show. And we open in the first show. They're from my perspective, they're still genre mixing TV. So this one is a Scandi noir murder episode where like it opens with bringing coffee to a frosty woodland area. Tell me about the body. Yeah, the body was left. We got footsteps. It's a size 9 boot. Blah blah blah. And it's cliched because she's at the police station and she's working late. Go home, officer. You need a thing. But obviously something is wrong with the world. You've got the introduction of Aubrey Plaza's character coming in and making her challenge her perception of what she thinks is real. That's all we've really been given in the first episode. I'm sure people who've seen episode 2 have said, it's now sort of doing this. I mentioned this briefly on Double Take. When the MCU, a huge entertainment machine, decide to make a series called Agatha All Along about a character from a spin-off of a spin-off and give her a limited series show, the optimist in me thinks, that they must know something we don't about this really interesting limited series. Like, they are going to subvert our expectations because nobody asked for this. We're not going to do like a classic action TV series. We're going to do something really different and challenge it. So I'm watching it thinking, this is going to be immediately gripping and obvious to me what they're doing. And I'm watching the first episode and I'm just going, this isn't interesting though. And no one asked for this and no one wants it. And I don't think many people are going to enjoy it. So what is the logic here? Granted, I've only seen the first episode. I just want to preface it. But like, it's so confusing to see them go down this road and for it to not be so obvious as to why they made that decision. I don't get it. I don't get what the thinking is. I don't get what the strategy is.
What's the raison d'etre?
I'm very happy to be proved wrong, but as it stands, I'm not going to continue watching it unless you guys, in the next few weeks, after you've seen episodes 4, 5, 6, go, hang on, James, actually, go and check it out because it really grew and it really developed and it just needed to marinate for a bit. I'm willing to be wrong, but it's more just like the approach of what Marvel's doing. I'm like, we weren't begging for it. And if it's not going to be amazing,
why?
Why even do it in the first place? It's just very strange.
Well, keep us posted, guys. If you see Agatha all along and you think James is wrong and you should stick with it, let us know at hello@popkitchenpodcast.com, and let us know about the Penguin as well if you continue to watch it.
I'm also like, I don't really remember that well what happened exactly at the end of WandaVision to these specific characters because they're side characters.
Because there's more than a few of them being brought back.
And it's not like this thing opens with a really clear, like, here's a dynamic you want to stick around for. Like, I know Catherine Hahn's the star. I'm not saying she's doing a bad job. It just exists as content on your phone when you're on the bus. Anyway. I really do hope I'm wrong, but I'm not just gonna keep watching it.
No, of course.
I'm fine. And other people are gonna have to recommend it to me now. I'm sorry. That's it.
Well, maybe you're one of those people. Email in your thoughts to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. So let's do The Substance, which is the new film out this week that we've had a lot of emails in about already, and it is the kind of film that if you have seen, you will definitely have a reaction to. If you don't know what The Substance is a satirical body horror movie directed by Coralie Farge, who previously made a film called Revenge. It stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid, and actually quite a tight, a small cast movie with actually very little dialogue in it. The Substance is essentially about aging, she's only 50, but aging actor Elizabeth Sparkle, played by Demi Moore, who is turning 50, and her successful career is kind of behind her. She's kind of past her best. I think she won an Oscar in the past, but she has this sort of fitness channel, which is very glamorous. However, we discover very early on in the movie that TV show is getting the axe because she, God forbid, she's hit 50, and that is the death knell for women in the TV industry. And this news is delivered to us, by the way, in a fantastic introduction by Dennis Quaid's character, who is the most obnoxious, over-the-top caricature, deliberately so.
Also named Harvey, which I wonder was interesting.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah.
And he wears these god-awful, gaudy satin suits, and we're introduced to him delivering this news up close to the camera while he urinates and talks in the camera at the same time. It's the most disgusting introduction to a character.
They do Dennis Quaid a rough time with
how he loves it, though. He's really game for it. So anyway, Elizabeth, through various plot circumstances, discovers this procedure called The Substance, this mysterious thing that is you can arrange for and be delivered to, and you can pick up the substance which promises to offer you a new, renewed vitality in life by creating a newer, younger version of yourself. And it's all very mysterious, but the deal is if you can create a new, younger version of yourself, literally like a duplication, with the one deal that, of course, it is that you are still sharing the same life. So 7 days for the new version of yourself and 7 days for the old version. And there is this kind of Faustian pact inherent in this this product and this promise, and it's called The Substance.
And the two are one.
The two are one. That's a reminder.
It's not different. It's the same person.
It's the same person. You may be able to grow this clone out of you, and it might be younger and glamorous. And of course, it's played by Margaret Qualley. But you are one.
Consciousness
you must
is like transferred
share the
between
time. Exactly. Yeah, consciousness is not transferred. You're two independent minds, but you share the same soul and body. I won't reveal any more, but it is as I said, a satirical body horror movie with overtones of Kubrick, Lynch, David Cronenberg, and it's an experience. It is an experience. James, why don't you give us your thoughts first?
Firstly, I had to walk out.
Of course,
I bet. So I saw it last night, so it's very fresh. I walked out the cinema and I did not feel good. I was like, I want to go home. Yeah. But yeah, we had a walk out, and the walk out was, I would say, before stuff got really crazy. I was like, if you had stayed, this was like sort of as the the milk really starts to turn off. Yeah. But actually, you had no idea what was coming in the first act.
And also, the way that the movie turns is like an extended 40 minutes, I'd say.
Yeah. So, it's almost a film of two halves, actually, you could say. The Substance. I had so much fun in The Substance, despite being absolutely disgusted and completely grossed out, but I thought it was really interesting and a very challenging watch. I'd say the first half I enjoyed more, but nonetheless, it was brilliant and really interestingly shot. I think the performances are brilliant. I think what it has to say about that specific issue. Here's the thing. I think people who go and watch this film are not going to sit there scratching their head throughout the whole film going, I wonder what the moral of this story is. Like, it's very obvious for the entire time what this film's trying to say. But the grotesqueness is so brilliantly well done. You almost have to tip your hat to it for executing it so brilliantly. It reminds me actually of when I saw In a Violent Nature a couple of months ago, which was also shockingly grotesque on screen, but nonetheless I was almost like, very well done for what you've pulled off here. I think the special effects and the practical effects and the design of everything that goes on later I thought was just brilliantly horrifying. I don't think you're going to wonder for the entire film what's this about, but nonetheless it's really brilliant, challenging, fun, and I don't think it's for everyone. I think some people might find it a difficult watch, but it
made me aware. So I went to see it at a screening last week with a friend of mine, and it made me realize that when we're invited to these screenings, we're not actually ever told the rating or the content of the movie. Obviously, you're sent a trailer, and I sat quite close to the front, so I wasn't aware of anybody leaving. But I was a bit concerned about my friend was fine actually, but I was suddenly aware that I had no idea whether or not my friend was okay with the kind of content that we were watching. Right, they were fine with it. We didn't have. I'm pretty sure we had walkouts, but we definitely had a scream at one point, which was great. Something is revealed in a mirror, and somebody just went. Here's my thing with the substance.
Just quickly, I think like just I think towards the very end, I think I took the film to be more serious, and I think the film comes ever so slightly a parody of itself towards the end. I think it's very much intending to do that, and it's part of the fun. But I think I was like, this isn't as serious of a film that I originally took it for when I first saw it.
Here's my thing with Substance, which is that as a visceral experience, it's what a crowning achievement. Absolutely. Yeah. That last 40 minutes is grotesque. And I was, we've seen a lot of films, and this really shocked me. And the cinema that I saw it in was so loud in terms of the audio. Every bone crack, every bodily fluid was right in my ear. And my friend and I were really squirming in our seats. And the film ended, and we sat in silence. And we waited for the credits to roll, and we got up and we walked out. We looked at each other and we just hugged each other because we needed some warmth.
You just know everything's going to be okay. So my thing,
as a visceral experience, well done it, and that is the primary thing for enjoying this film. If it's not your kind of, if you don't like grotesqueness, if you don't like body horror, stay away. The thing that stops me from really giving it a lot of praise is that, ironically, for a film called The Substance, is that the satire is limited and basic. I find
it's so consistent for a while, isn't it? It stays at a. Oh, sorry.
Yes, no. So the satire is clearly introduced quite early on. We know it's about body image. We know it's about very interesting things, which is about chauvinism and also women internalizing their hatred for other women as well, and ageism and all that stuff's great. But the film is 2 hours 20, which goes very quickly, but. There is a point where I'm like, the film is not offering me any more in terms of satire, but it's offering me so much in visceral stuff, which is great, but there's a limit to that. I would have loved, when the film gets really crazy towards the end, to not only have been reacting viscerally to what's happening on screen, but to also have been thinking, this is so brilliant because of the satirical point it's trying to make. For me, it was an imbalance, and I was therefore, it kind of put a ceiling on the whole experience for me. All the things, like I said, are great. Demi Moore, I've never actually seen a Demi Moore film. I've seen her in 2 films. I've seen her in Margin Call, where everyone's in it, and I've seen her in A Few Good Men. Yeah. But I've not seen Ghost. I've not seen.
Ghost is great.
I mean, she also hasn't really been in a lot of films recently.
Which I think is like a nice bit of irony for this film.
Oh, that's true, actually. And so an actor late in her career, and she's very good in it, don't get me wrong. She's absolutely game for what this film asked her to do. Similarly, Margaret Qualley is really good. And, from the directing point of view, I do like that. The film, I think, has this clever switcheroo, which is like in the first half, it really engages in this like male gazy leeriness. I mean, there are so many shots of Margaret Qualley's body and her ass and her crotch, But obviously, it's because thankfully it's from a female film director, so it's not coming off as distasteful. It's all part of the satire, and what I think that does is quite cleverly kind of. Mistakenly whet the audience's palate for a kind of appetite that they think they're going to get, and then the way that it whets an audience's appetite for the kind of body imagery that it wants to see, and then it flips that in the second half and responds to that in a brilliant way. I just came away thinking the satire was lacking for me. And another thing to the film's credit is that there is a lot of a lot of sadness comes through it, a lot of loneliness. It's a very small cast.
There are no friends in this film.
There are no friends. It's basically just the three of them and a couple of people coming in and out. And the dialogue is also sparse. It's mainly a montage of very crazy things happening.
It's also very surreal, and there's a lot of dream logic.
Yes,
and like within that, nothing ever really said ever feels like it's taking place. Really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Black Swan-esque in a way.
But and as a result, the film has this kind of sadness, this loneliness, which works. Back to the satirical point, though, what I found is that when the film does stop its craziness to then have a scene of dialogue, that's for me when the film should really hang. The film hangs on the dialogue scenes for it to like deliver its satire and to make a point between the craziness and to substantiate, no pun intended, the craziness. However, when the dialogue scenes actually arrive, they're so pointed and on the nose and quite like one-dimensional. Like there's her interaction with her neighbor, the interaction with Dennis Quaid is so I'm like, yeah, this is very obvious. I get the point you're making, but it's not actually deepening it. So. Visceral experience, great. As a satire, limited.
So it's like 45 to 50 minutes in. I'm enjoying the presentation of this. Like, it's a contemporary gothic picture of Dorian Gray thing happening, right?
That's right, yeah.
So you get that, and I'm like, oh, great, cool, I get it. And then I think I understood it for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And what's left to sustain you is the body horror, which is brilliantly done. Yeah. It's brilliantly well done, but you're
intellectually, I'm not getting anything
intellectually,
else.
I'm only just now being shocked and horrified, and it's bloody and it's gory and it's pussy and it's all of it. It's great, but I'm like, I'm done. I'm not figuring out what this film has. It's a very fun point about aging and being disgusted by a different version of yourself, but I'm still waiting for the next evolution.
That's it, and I think to really make a great film, it needs to kind of tickle both. You need to have something that stimulates you intellectually and delivers the viscerality in contrast with one another. Because, to be honest, towards the end, even though I enjoyed the visceral experience, part of me was like, I can't wait for this to end. Yeah. Because I'm not sticking around for any message.
It just gets worse.
It just gets
There's a moment where you think you're done, and it's
no.
no.
Oh, no.
You think this is as bad as it gets?
Yeah.
No, sir, please.
I really hope people haven't seen any spoilers for how this film goes.
Yeah, if you didn't, you don't want to know about the ending before you watch it.
It's not scary, but it's squelchy and grotesque and brutal.
There's a fun opening where it starts with Elizabeth Sparkle getting her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and it shows the transition of fame and time. And it's originally set and cast in the cement, and she's standing on it having a picture taken. And as the years go by, there's trash and ketchup and rubbish and dog poo getting smiled over it, and it starts to crack and fray. And it's a nicely sort of the way they sort of use that in the ending as well to make a point. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it's kind of fun.
I also
I also like the way they use when she goes to get the substance, it's in this back end alley of LA, down this dark corner under the thing. Yeah. It's almost like using it as a frame for where someone who is an addict would go to get their fix, like the levels you would go to get something that you need to fulfill a hole inside you. I'm like, okay, you're using that as an allegory.
Ironic contrast between the depravity that one has to go through to achieve beauty, the extremes to achieve the other.
Or what's at the cost of what?
And actually, in that scene where she goes to pick up the substance for the first time, which is sort of down this dark corridor, and there's lots of corridor shots in this movie, but like I said, very Kubrickian.
Oh, totally.
But I actually think this film would make an interesting comparison with Tar, which is another movie about someone who's a very successful woman at the turning point of her career, her relationship with a younger woman, and their interaction. And just that scene when she went to pick up that thing from the locker reminded me of that scene in Tar where she follows she follows the woman down to the and there's the dog there.
Breaks her.
And I think actually there's something that you could actually draw parallels between two very different films.
Yeah.
But kind of both films provocative in their own way.
I was thinking of Black Swan the entire time. But to me, Black Swan sustains me more to its crescendo narratively.
Yes.
And it feels more complete as an ending when that film ends.
The final line of Black Swan.
Because that is a dual personality. Black Swan,
and a little bit of body
Swan.
horror in there.
Totally.
And the last sign of
feathers out
the final scene, the final line of Black Swan is just like this nice little bow that kind of wraps on the whole thing. And I'm like, thank you. Whereas it's kind of lacking this. But watching Margaret Qualley in it reminded me that the other kind of trying to be provocative film that I saw her in this year was Kinds of Kindness, and I was like, I will take Substance over the Kinds of Kindness
easily,
so many times.
Like, boring film. I spoke to somebody who liked it the other day.
Get out
really?
of here.
Like, yeah, I really liked it. So what? I didn't even engage. I was like, how? I just said I found it really intolerable and very boring. And I told it felt like scraps of Yanthamos.
Part of me is still in that seat. The sweat of me is still in that scene. The sweat tried to leave the cinema. Go back to our review. You understand
As
how
always,
warm
guys,
it
if you
was.
wanted to send in your thoughts, questions, concerns about the substance, you can do by writing into hello@popkitchenpodcast.com, just like Brad did. Brad writes in and says, hello, James and George, George and James. Brad here from Melbourne, Australia.
Hey, g'day.
I've been listening and sincerely enjoying your wonderful podcast for some years now, and this is the first time I felt the compulsion to email in after seeing a film. Yesterday, I went to see The Substance. I went to an early screening at a not so popular cinema, so I had the luxury of enjoying the film in a cinema all to myself. While I normally love the crowd experience of a packed house, it was nice to see a private screening of such an interesting film. I really enjoyed most of The Substance. I found it visually stunning and grotesque in all the right ways. I loved the performances, and although the themes were very on the nose, I didn't mind that all too much because it did lead to a thought-provoking film that stayed with me for some time. It'll stay with you.
Oh yeah,
oh yeah,
I'll feel it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was thought-provoking though. In
the beginning,
it provoked me viscerally.
Yeah.
In a response, but I didn't come away thinking about the themes of the movie as we talked about.
Yeah. What I did find hard to overcome was the feeling that the film thought I was stupid. I think a good film makes you feel smart, makes you feel like you've worked something out without being hit over the head with it. Personally, the best example of this is Arrival, a film that gently guides you towards the end without telling you everything. Nonetheless, I felt Substance didn't trust me enough to make it there on my own, so it held my hand throughout the film. The repeated close-ups of the nurse's birthmark, the constant reminder of "you are one," the cutback, yeah, it's true, it is like reiterated, isn't it? Yeah, it's a thing if you've seen it.
This is the premise of the movie.
Yes.
Do not forget the
These
premise.
are the rules. It's like a person they can call, like, but can I not do this?
Yeah.
No, you got to do this. It'll work this way
a
now.
little bit of Mulholland Drive in there.
LA,
actually. Like I said,
over the city.
I said I'd Lynchian overtones,
Yes,
but definitely, there is sorry to interrupt the email.
No,
but there
no,
is that kind of. There's a very. It is hyper, like you said, surreal.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, who's Demi Moore's character, is after she's had after Margaret Qualley exists and all that stuff, she's confronted when she looks out of her apartment as the huge billboard of Margaret Qualley's face looking back at her, which is completely unrealistic, but also adds to this thing. And there's the way that it affects her own perception of herself. I think that was the most interesting part of the film, when there's how Demi Moore's Elizabeth's own sense of her own identity is being poisoned by this thing that she created. Anyway.
Yeah, totally. Nonetheless, I felt The Substance didn't trust me enough to... the other one. The cutbacks to the original explanatory video and the continued visual references to the billboard and the damaged portrait of Demi Moore just took me out of it. Yeah, it's like on the nose. I found myself frustrated at the constant hand-holding, and it left me feeling a little condescended by the film. I wonder if cinephiles like yourself felt the same way. Thanks again for the amazing podcast. You two make my morning commutes a joy. Keep up the great work. Sirens on my end. Bradley.
Thank you, Bradley. This next email about The Substance is from Esme, who says, "Hi, James and George. Hope you're both well. George, I saw you at the screening for The Substance, but I wasn't able to get to you for a chat. Oh, sorry, Esme. Please feel free to say hello next time. I do give off unfriendly vibes, don't I? Cool, that George is in a mood over there.
At my 30th, there's like some people who've met George before, but some people who haven't, but have nonetheless seen him on social media, and some people are like, "Oh, is George over there?" And I was like, yeah. And I was like, "Oh, I'd love to say hi, but I don't want to disturb him." And I was like, "No, go disturb him. Come say hi." No, disturb him. I was like, "George."
I'm not... I will always talk to you. It's okay. Welcome all. Esme says, "Dying to hear what you thought of the film. I've added some of my thoughts below. Overall, I kind of liked it, but I didn't love it. I felt like it started very strong and tight, and I loved what they were saying around expectations on body image for women. It looked amazing, and the acting was great from both Margaret and Demi. I did struggle with the lack of dialogue by the end. The constant screaming and loud music was quite tiring after 2 hours 20. I think my main other issue was that they really over-laboured the point around body image by the end, that they didn't need to go to so extreme in what they were trying to make with their point. Keep up the great work, guys. Hopefully see you at more screens.
Do you know what it is? It's like they had their baseline idea, which you could tell from the trailer, and it's like instead of doing something different, they just turned up the volume on it continuously and continually. And it's nonetheless there, and it's shocking, but it's like I wanted the next song. Not just to turn up the volume on the final chorus.
Otherwise, it's like it could have been a short film.
Yeah. Bevan writes in to Pulp Kitchen Podcast. Hello at popkitchenpodcast.com, and she says, "Hey boys, hope things are good with yous."
Ooh, what was that?
Ooh, hey there.
Was it like that sort of tone of the laptop?
Hope things are good with you. Continuing with my premiere attendance, I was smacked with the most unlikely double bill this week. I saw Beetlejuice, and The Substance.
Those are very different films.
Completely different. I don't really have much to say on the first. It's the latter that I really want to talk about. It's true. There isn't much to say about Beetlejuice.
I feel warmly towards it, actually. I don't feel anything, but it's just there.
So two friends the other day were like, "Oh, we're going to go see Beetlejuice. We've not seen Beetlejuice." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. You're not going to There's very little for you there. I hope you have a good time.
Yeah, I hope you have a good time, but yeah.
It's going to be strange and weird. I must catch up with them about it. This, Bevan goes on to say, this film has fucked me up. Truly one of the most visceral cinematic experiences I have ever had. Yeah. I went in completely blind. Great way to go and see it. All I knew was that Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley were at the helm. I laughed, I cried, I nearly threw up. It was Kubrickian at times, especially with this long corridor that frequently reappears, lined with a carpet akin to that of the Overlook Hotel. This body horror was filmed with so much gore, unlike anything I've ever seen. Both the leads give phenomenal performances. The prosthetics and costuming are absolutely incredible, creating such terrifying imagery. My heart was going like the clappers for the last 40 minutes of this film. As I watched through my fingers. This film is a really interesting take on beauty and youth in the entertainment industry and how people, particularly women, are affected by this. I really feel like I need to sit with this film for a while, and when you see it, I think you'll feel the same. I cannot tell if I loved or loathed it. Anyways, look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions on this piece. All my love, as always, Bev.
When I went to see it, my friend Amy, when she got home, she messaged me and she said, I've just had to have a macaroni cheese, not because I was hungry, but because I wanted to be hugged from the inside.
Yes.
And I was like, that's the perfect plain food, but comforting.
I walked in, Tally was sitting there just on her laptop, and she's like, oh, you're at the cinema? And I was like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I've just seen a really fucked up film. And she's like, it's called The Substance. She hadn't seen a trailer. She's like, explain it. And I was like, can I just have a minute? Yeah. And I will probably, and then I explained it, and she sounds like I'd hate it, and I was like, it was really a lot.
I genuinely think because there was a moment where Anna was
not in a way that I was saying it was bad. It's just that when you just come out that film, that is a lot.
There was a moment that Anna was almost going to come with me, and I'm so glad she didn't.
But she hated it.
I think she probably would have left.
Really?
Yeah, it's just absolutely not for her. It would have been a lot. It is a lot. If that isn't your thing with the way the film goes, I think it's a lot to expect someone to sit through 40 minutes of that towards the end.
It definitely takes out the ending of Men for body horror, disgusting
way
stuff.
Behind.
It's
way behind.
Yeah.
If you thought it makes like Requiem for a Dream look like a lovely PSA video.
Yeah.
Like, please.
Yeah, it's like that for 45 minutes to an hour on and off. Well, there you go, guys. That was The Substance. We'd love to hear any more thoughts if you have them. As always, send in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. You know what I was reminded of, or sort of like consolidated an idea in myself when I was watching The Penguin, is that my ultimate idea of like comfort and coziness is for like a home apartment space is to be like high above the ground in a sprawling urban environment when it's raining and thundering against the window.
Yeah, cozy.
Like could be Gotham, but also like, you know, New York. And like I can hear the rain and the people and the cars. It's always there, but I'm above it, safe, and the rain is on my window.
You're comforted by the existence of other people.
I love it.
But you're alone together.
Yes, that totally is my comfort place. There are really great like sort of lo-fi beat, live videos, but they do these like imaginary AI generated windows of what like it could be, of the vibe you could be creating. Like whereas some people, it's like a cottage in the countryside. Whereas mine is like, it's urban. It's like everything's there, but I'm in my own little pocket.
If you were in a little cottage and it was raining, you were the same thing. It's just you're just so London, James. It's in your DNA now.
Even dystopian Blade Runner. You know, it's always raining there. Even there, I'm like, oh,
there's no daylight.
A cozy little apartment.
Yeah. You never see daylight in Blade Runner, except for when they go like the trash heap in the second one.
It's all overcast, isn't it?
It's polluted and horrible. Let's do some emails for the show. We have many emails, and if you subscribe to our Patreon at the VIP or producer level, you get priority access to have your email read out on the show, just like Ray has. Ray writes in and says, "Hi, George and James. James and George, long-time listener, third-time caller here. I'm a bit behind on episodes, so I just got around to episode 138, the best movies of the 1990s. And I noticed a huge void on the list. There are no black films, not even the mainstream ones held by a black lead like Will Smith. No Bad Boys, Independence Day, Men in Black, Enemy of the State, and Wild Wild West. Also, what I love, by the way, Ray, is you have put the titles in inverted commas, And also then in brackets with the film, with the year. That's how I remember dates for films, because people write that.
Ray, friend of the show, Ray, is a professional. He sends in he sent in the voice note with the exceptional quality.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
Are you a broadcaster?
He hired a booth for it, I bet.
Yeah.
Ray goes on to say,
Good to hear from you, Ray.
This isn't an indictment on you guys, but I was left wondering if how black films penetrated culture across the pond in the penetrated culture across the pond in the 90s. Culturally, we got some of our most impactful black canon films in that era. House Party, Boys in the Hood, Daughters of the Dust. Daughters of the Dust has been on my list for a long time, actually. Malcolm X, Devil in a Blue Dress, also on my list. Waiting to Exhale. I'm also curious about how black films that predate Get Out, Black Panther, and Moonlight landed on non-black audiences. As we're here in the States banging our gavel about inclusion, we can't ignore how these movies simply don't even ding on the radar of other demographic audiences. Anywho, that's all I've got. Loving the show. Cheers, Ray. You're right. I mean, that didn't come up in our discussion a lot. Those films are great. And actually, I mean, I think we did actually mention Men in Black. We talked about how that was one of the best 90s films. You know, it's just, it's a great movie. But it's true. I mean, sadly, 30 years ago, you had fewer black-led movies, fewer black-made movies as well, which is really disappointing. But yeah,
it's also like, we talked about this before. It's like the approach with Hollywood with casting black actors was that they're only going to cast one of them. So it's like if you were to cast a black actor in your supporting role, it would therefore mean the lead isn't going to be black. That felt. I mean, who knows? Maybe that's still something that happens today. But that was the sort of landscape that Hollywood was operating in, and therefore how your film was marketed would have been affected by that. Famously, it's like Neo. Will Smith went for Neo in The Matrix, and then it would have affected Lawrence Fishburne's casting as Morpheus. But yeah, no, I totally agree, and it will just be a byproduct of how we've been presented cinema, how it was marketed to us, how films are regarded from that era, what filmmakers also are telling the stories.
It's quite nice, though, that, you know, when you mentioned Get Out, Black Panther, and Moonlight, which is a critically acclaimed movie, one of the biggest, most successful box office movies of the past few years, and an Oscar-winning movie. Those aren't just black-led films; those are black stories as well. Whereas Men in Black, Enemy of the State, Independence Day, they're all have a black lead, but they're not black stories. That's the whole point. But very good to point out. I need to check out some of those on my list. Watermelon Woman as well is another one. And another VIP, Kieran, has written in and says, "Hi George and James, long-time listener, but first time emailing in." Hello, Kieran.
Hello.
As a film lover, I was looking for a film podcast for a long time, and thank God I found yours, as it is truly the best of the lot.
Thank you.
I listened to your Rings of Power episodes 1 to 3 review, and I have to admit, I can't help but want Sauron to win.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, what that says about me as a person, I do not know, but my friends have all agreed that the show isn't making us want to hate him in the slightest.
Because the other characters aren't that likable. I'm not rooting for any of the other ones, where they've tried to humanize Sauron so far. But yeah.
Anyway, the real reason I write in is for recommendations. I am taking part in the London Shine Walk 2024 for cancer research on Saturday. This might have already happened by the time we read out this email, Kieran. I hope it went well if so. If you are unfamiliar with the event, I have to walk a marathon overnight from Battersea Park, starting at 7:30 p.m. and most likely finish around 6:30 a.m.
Wow.
Walking a marathon, yeah, wow. With a lot of time to kill, I'll be catching up with Double Take, but I was also thinking of listening to some film scores to keep me going. As film score lovers, what film scores would you think would be best to keep me motivated? All recommendations will be added to my playlist for the evening. Keep up the podcast, and good luck to any Simons also taking part. P.S. My unpopular opinion is that Shrek 3 is the best of the franchise.
Oh, that needs to be unpacked.
The jokes never fail to crack me up. I mean, I haven't seen a long time to unpack that. But Kieran, sorry if we missed your run, but your walk rather. Nonetheless,
I will just say, Kieran, great email. That doing film scores is an idea that me and George have been sitting on for a really long time. I think we would love to do a deep dive episode where we get to almost Desert Island disc style.
Yeah.
We get to present our favorite film scores, actually play them out for people who are listening. The problem is obviously there's a massive copyright issue for doing that on YouTube or even on our podcast. So if it is something we're going to do, it'd be behind a paywall on a private feed. But I'd love to do that. I'd love to nominate 5 to 10 of our favorite scores, and then we all get to listen to this amazing long podcast where the scores are played after we get to talk about them. So I will should we sit on that?
Well, email? I will just say, just I'll give you one.
Okay, you give
just
one.
for the purpose-built reason of motivational ones.
Sure.
Band of Brothers soundtrack. The score, rather. Band of Brothers score opens with 2 suites that are 9 minutes long each.
Yeah. Nice.
Very, very empowering. Very do-do-do. You feel like,
ready to go to war.
Men were men. Yeah. We were going to war.
Yeah.
And very powerful. So I would check that out. Michael Carmen's score for Band of Brothers.
Cool. Mia writes in to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com and says, "Hi lads, big fan of the podcast. I went to see Speak No Evil last night. I wanted to share my thoughts. Guys, you can check out our review of Speak No Evil from last week. I went to see the film on a whim with my boyfriend because of a date night deal they do at the cinema, and we had pretty medium level expectations. We both loved it.
Great.
What I particularly liked about it was I felt it was more thought out and well paced than other films with a similar IP in the horror thriller genre. Dancing around spoilers, I was expecting it to become overly ridiculous like many horror thriller films. But while it maintained some of that, I actually believed what was happening and how things played out. I felt anxious throughout because I found the characters and their motivations believable, and the slower pace and teasing had me unsure of what to expect at particular moments. It does tease you. It knows it's teasing you. That film.
That's what's enjoyable about it.
Yeah. Of course, there were some silly aspects, but overall, I thought it was refreshing and something we enjoyed talking about afterwards. James McAvoy is always amazing, but I'm now also a fan of director James Watkins and thought the entire cast were great. On another note, I would love to hear your opinions on something I say often, which is how I wish it was socially and maybe legally, but within reason, acceptable to remake a film that had a really good concept and ingredients, but wasn't executed well, like they did with Suicide Squad. Yeah, that did happen. Yeah, they just redid that.
Yeah, they just
5
redid
years
it,
later.
and they did do it better.
An example that comes to mind is In Time, starring Justin Timberlake. While I do enjoy that film, it had such an interesting concept that I would love to see done in a more serious and thought-provoking way. What are your thoughts on this, and what films come to mind that you would like to see remade to match their potential? Keep up the great work, Mia. You know what comes to mind? This isn't a bad film that wasn't executed well, but I think funnily Time, you could do About Time, the concept of the time travel again, but with different dynamic and different stories. I wonder if the whole beat about having kids is the... Oh, don't spoil About Time.
Well, you can't go back.
Yeah.
That's not a spoiler. It's just like a plot point at one point. It's like you can't.
That's like, yeah, you could. It's a fun time travel concept. It's very. You take the grounded time travel. You just go into a cupboard and do it.
But the idea that there's a bad movie that's got a good concept.
Bad movie.
I've talked about this before, actually, which is Vox Lux, which is Brady Corbett's previous film. He just made The Brutalist at Venice. Got a lot of buzz. We'll be talking about it when it comes out. Great premise, which is a teenager in the 90s survives a high school shooting, and then at the eulogy, the memorial for the shooting, delivers an astounding singing vocal performance of as a tribute. That is then captured on camera and pre-internet goes viral. It becomes a sensation around the country. And then actually ends up launching her into a pop career. And we cut 20 years later, and she's Natalie Portman. She's one of the biggest pop stars on the planet. And Jude Law is her manager. Nice. And it's this whole idea of like America, celebrity, crime. Very interesting concept about high school shootings. The birth of a celebrity, but in a toxic way. Really interesting ingredients. The film's a total mess. But I'd love to see that remade by somebody else.
You know what I think could be interesting, given this phase of artificial intelligence we're in, the film Artificial Intelligence, which I think is a bit of a slow, somber, dry film from Spielberg. I'd like to see the concept of an AI being sentient and progressing through time and interacting with different people. I think you could write that very differently now.
The Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams. Because I think I liked that as a kid. I think I have memories of watching it with my dad and my brother. But like that is actually, think of it, that's a concept of a robot that ages, get it 200 years and lives through like 3 generations of a family.
Yes.
And really you could tell something quite, especially if you set it, imagine if you had it was like began in the 60s and it's like a retro futurist robot.
Like a Forrest Gump.
Literally. You could do that. That could actually be quite good.
Yeah, that's good fun.
I mean, obviously you lose Robin Williams, which is a shame, but...
always a shame.
Anyway, next email. We'll keep staying on Speak No Evil. This next email is from Luke, who says, "Hey lads, I hope you are both doing well. Apologies in advance for the lack of formatting and pristine grammar. It's okay.
It's all right.
It's fine. You've got punctuation, which is more. You've got punctuation in capital letters, which is more than a few people.
Sometimes you just don't get a comma or a full stop for a while.
Or a paragraph break.
Don't get to
and
breathe.
it's like an HTML document. It's just bleh.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm writing this while making my lunch. I just listened to your episode on the recent film Speak No Evil, and I wanted to share my main quarrel with the film. I watched the Danish version about 6 months ago, and F me, it messed me up. Unsurprisingly, the English version is much more sanitized, and frankly, it bitches out on all the best and the most uncomfortable moments of the original. This is not to say that a film being messed up inherently makes it a good film, but a film with the premise of Speak No Evil being uncomfortable is crucial for the film to work. The remake just feels generic, safe, and makes you wonder why they remade it at all. This is an example of English-speaking films pulling too many punches, especially when it comes to films of this kind. However, this just makes me appreciate foreign language films all the more for the courage to create something that you have never seen before, like the original Speak No Evil. With this in mind, I thought it would be a great idea for you guys to watch some movies that are widely considered to be effed up and do an episode with your reactions on how they messed with you and go under your skin.
Nice.
For the week we're talking about the substance, that's quite good. I have included some ideas below. Old Boy. Have you seen Old Boy?
No, it's on my list.
I need to rewatch it. I watched it on an
loves it.
iPad at uni and I liked it, but I think I need to give it a proper cinema treatment.
It's my friend Amy's favourite film. She's always going on about
The Skin I Live In. The Skin I Live In. Have you seen that?
No, I've not seen Skin I Live In.
That's Pedro Almodovar film, which is not unsimilar to something like The Substance.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a body horror, but not as satirical. That's quite a good movie. Antonio Banderas, really good.
Yeah. I remember had a very iconic poster, didn't it?
Speak No Evil, the original. Funny Games, the Michael Haneke, the original. I've never seen that, but I know Michael Haneke then remade it in English language. It's not as good, but like I've heard that's a really arduous experience, really cold, like brutal, bleak. And then The Vanishing, which Kubrick called the scariest film he's ever seen. Now, it's so weird. I feel like fate is telling me to watch The Vanishing because you're the third person in 2 weeks to talk to me about The Vanishing. Your friend Amy told me about it, and my friend Amy told me about it, our friend Amy. And the only problem with The Vanishing is that I know the ending, which is apparently very, very famous and very significant to the film because it was ruined for me by my A-level English teacher, who, God love him, he was a lovely man. He was telling us about something and he was like, oh, it ends with this. There's this film, you're probably not going to see it, The Vanishing, and it ends with this terrific. And he was a lovely man, but I obviously never forget this stuff. So I've had to ask people, I'm like, can I still see it? And they're like, oh, that is a real shame that you know how it ends.
Okay.
But I will go and see it. Maybe we should do it for Halloween season or something.
We should.
Of course, from your podcast and point of view, it makes more sense to talk about films that are in the public eye, but I think it'd be really great if some more film podcasts spoke about foreign cinema and acted as a gateway for listeners to find so many more amazing films. That's the kind of film we'll unpack on Patreon.
One of the most effed up films I've seen is Martyrs, which I saw this year.
Martyrs.
It's truly
Did you speak about that on this? You didn't.
No, there's no way to speak about it, really.
Did it come out this year?
No. It's an old film. I watched it with Horror Amy in one of her sick film nights. It's really, I'm not going to even describe it, but funnily enough, it's a film that, I don't even know what you Googled, but I've seen. And I was sort of, while watching it, thinking, is this skin deep? But I think it ends on a very interesting final scene that really sat with me, and I was like, that it was really fucked up, but actually quite thought provoking. If you've put yourself through Martyrs, you'll know. But, that's all I'll say.
The effed up film that I want to see that I haven't is Come and See. Have you heard about that? The Ukrainian World War II set movie.
Oh no,
it's meant to be like the most harrowing film that has ever been made.
Yeah.
And it's kind of very famous for this, picture of this kid like squirming on it, and it apparently is just 2 hours of watching actual hell. So I do want to watch that, but I don't want to watch it on my own.
Yeah.
And
you should come to a sick film night.
Maybe if you put Come and See on, then we'll watch it. Okay, that's my suggestion for the next one.
Sam writes in, thoughts on Sing Sing and a couple questions.
Finally, some thoughts on Sing Sing.
Hi, George and James. You can check out our review of Sing Sing from a couple of weeks ago. First time emailer here, but I've been enjoying the pod for a few months now, and I'm especially loving the stuff you're putting out on Patreon. Thanks so much. I wanted to weigh in on Sing Sing because I went to see it very recently after hearing your glowing review, and it was one of the best cinema experiences I've had in a long time.
Yay.
I had a smile pinned on my face for the whole first half, and despite taking a sadder turn in the second half, the warmth and glow of the whole film stayed with me for hours afterwards. Some of the themes around reoffending, mental health, and loss could so easily appear overdone in lesser hands, but I felt this film touched on each in a thoughtful and subtle way. It left me with one obvious question for you. What else can I see Coleman Domingo in? He was spectacular. I thought I'd also join last episode's overrated franchises debate. James might kill me, but I'd have to say Star Wars as much. Well, is Star Wars appropriately rated? That's why I have no problem with you saying Star Wars.
I feel like Star Wars is 3 different franchises at the moment.
It's very heavily criticised, so I'd say it's suitably rated. I think if you had said that when The Force Awakens was coming out, you'd have an argument because the fever was so high.
I still think it's one of the biggest franchises on the planet.
Yeah, but it's very heavily criticised.
Yeah, but it's still also very deeply rated.
Yeah, it depends like how we're using to measure it. But no, I have no problem with you saying Star Wars. As much as I loved the originals as a kid, I'm not sure any installment stands up by itself. This is talking about Star Wars. I'm not sure any installment stands up by itself as a great film, bar maybe Rogue One. Okay, so there I disagree. I think Empire's very good
I think
film.
Empire stands
Even
up.
in isolation, you could watch that, and it's brilliant. The originals are definitely the best of the trilogies, but I can't help think on rewatch that they're dragged down a lot by Mark Hamill's acting.
Oh, leave him alone.
It got me. I want to go to the party to get some power converters. It got me thinking as though, where could he be? 3PO! It got me thinking though, as I still love the world of Star Wars and I'm somewhat invested in the coming films, should the success of a franchise be based more on the quality of individual films or the richness and interest of the cinematic universe that is developed across multiple films? Would love to hear your thoughts. Keep up the great work and all the best, Sam from London/Oxford. Firstly, George, what else can I see Coleman Domingo in? He was spectacular.
He was great in Euphoria. If you watched that, really good in that. He was in Rustin last year, which I didn't see, but he got a lot of praise for. He's one of those actors who's been in a lot. He's
Fear
been
the
around.
Walking Dead, The Color Purple, not seen. Zola. Candyman, did you see Candyman?
No, I didn't, but that was meant to be great. Let's just go on his IMDb.
Zola?
No, that's meant to be also great. He, of course, was in Lincoln, Selma,
And he'll be in many more in
Assassination
the
Nation.
future. But yeah, should a franchise be based more on the quality of individual films or the richness of the cinematic universe? It's a bit of both. Once you're in that franchise territory, and I think Star Wars is the one that, of all of them, has expanded itself beyond just those films. Like, it is a whole universe of games and stories and spin-offs and TV series. Now it's even more so. But even pre-Disney acquisition, it was so much bigger than the films. People really took it and ran with it in a way that was really great. But I think I disagree. I think there are a selection. I actually think all three of the originals are brilliant.
Yeah.
But Empire in particular, film. I mean, like, this is obvious to no one.
Hot take.
I just think it's brilliant.
Final email here from Shreya, who writes in and says, "Hello, James and George and James. Greetings from Bangalore, India.
Oh.
I only recently discovered the Pulp Kitchen podcast, and I'm so glad I did, because your discussions on all things film have not only been entertaining, but also super educational as I begin my new career as a documentary filmmaker."
Oh, nice.
Congratulations, and thank you for your kind words.
Good luck.
It's interesting to see what themes and motifs you both pick out, and also where films tend to fall short. On a side note, my mother has been loving clips of the Guess the Film from the French-Spanish title and bombards my Instagram messages with them.
Stay tuned for later.
I wanted to ask if either of you have checked out The Perfect Couple on Netflix. While the show is yet another luxury white family murder, it features Jack Rayner, who I was introduced by both of you on your underrated actors segment.
Yeah.
Sorry for the long email. Wishing you both continued success, Shreya.
Yeah, he was on my list, my pick when
Great
he
actor.
first did it. He's really, really good. He's fantastic in what Richard did. If you haven't seen that, go and check him out.
Sorry, just reminded me, a mate of his who he's also been in a film with, Will Poulter. Love Will Poulter.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's also in Midsummer. He's a boyfriend in Midsummer.
As is Will Poulter.
I've always thought Jack Rayner was on the verge of a really big casting of something, not necessarily like a big. I know he did Transformers, but I thought like, you're on the verge because he's really talented. But The Perfect Couple, I think me and Talia checked out briefly, but didn't stick with, and it was kind of casually. Yeah.
Anna's watched it,
yeah,
and she says it is Netflix's attempt at trying to get Big Little Lies and The White Lotus and bring them together. And she finished the second episode, and she was like, "This show is bad." She was like, "This show is really bad.
Yeah.
Like not
great
good
casting.
at all."
You got Liev Schreiber, Nicole Kidman,
Jack
Dakota
Rayner.
Fanning.
Yeah. It's a good cast, but you never watched Big Little Lies, did you?
No, but I heard it's brilliant.
Yeah, I don't think I've talked about it much in this show because it's a few years old now, and it's like pre-White Lotus. It was kind of what the White Lotus is about, especially the first season. Really good. And if you don't know what happens in the first season, definitely watch it. Nicole Kidman,
save it for a holiday.
Reese Witherspoon,
Cape Town, maybe.
Alexander Skarsgård, Shailene Woodley. Laura Dern, Zoe Kravitz.
Titans.
It's a really good. The first season I thought was fantastic. Yeah, really watch it.
Well, guys, those were the emails that. Oh, sorry, did you have something? No. Well, guys, those were the emails that we had for today. Thank you so much for sending them in. We have many more, but please do continue to send them in to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. Send in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns. Also, your reviews. Also, if you want to support us at the VIP tier on Patreon, you can do by going there, and you'll have priority access to have your emails read out on the show.
Thank you very much.
Got there in the end.
Let's move on to a game. James, as ever, Pop Kitchen ends
with a game.
So, many weeks in the past weeks, we've been enjoying the language game. We've had French, German, Spanish, Italian. This week, it's the language game with a twist. I am behind the scenes curating a game based on another language with the help of a friend who is a national of that country.
I just pictured you getting on planes, flying, looking at the archives.
And in the coming weeks, we will play that game. I just need to make sure I want to get the titles right, I want to get the pronunciation right. While that is in the works, I wanted to give you a different spin on the language game.
Okay.
So today, what's going to happen is I'm going to ask you to guess the movie from its multiple foreign film titles.
Okay.
So I'm going to read out the title of this one movie in different countries, and you have to tell me what that film likely is, okay?
And these are all like very different titles, yeah.
Yes, often.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'd be like, oh, so in China it's this, and in Turkey it's this. What do you think it is?
Great.
Okay,
Great, yeah.
So I'm going to be like, film number 1, film number 2, and that's how we're going to do it today.
Great, sounds
so it's
good,
a bit more of
sounds
a spin the globe world tour today.
Love it.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, how many we got? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Oh, you
Just
top
kept
there, yeah.
going. Okay.
As always, play along at home.
Guess the movie from its foreign film title. In Israel, this movie is released as... Sorry. Film number 1. In Israel, this film is called It's Raining Falafel. In Turkey, Raining Kofta. In Ukraine, minimum cloudiness sometimes. And in Chile, hamburger rain.
That is hilarious, and it's cloudy with a chance of meatballs.
It is absolutely cloudy with a chance of meatballs.
Unbelievable that they... Wait, are there different versions of the films where it rains falafel and lamb kofta?
No, I'm pretty sure it will rain meatballs, but I'm like...
They don't have a word
Maybe
for
they just thought falafel will
Cloudy
get bums
with
on
a
seats
chance
more.
of lamb kofta. That is brilliant.
That is cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Film number 2. In China, this was released as This Hitman is Not as Cold as He Thought. And in Turkey, Power of Love.
Oh. Is him not as cold as he thought?
It's Leon the Professional.
Oh, okay, right, nice, yeah.
Film number 3 was released in China as Ice Storm. In Hong Kong, The Bizarre Murder Case of Snowflake High. And in Mexico, Voluntary Kidnapping.
Snowflake High, voluntary kidnapping. It's high school. Did you say what?
The bizarre murder case of Snowflake High.
Snowflake High.
It's a complete red herring.
I don't know.
The answer is Fargo.
Oh, I was thinking of Fargo,
really?
funnily
Oh,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to go for it. All right, yeah.
Film number 4. In China, it was called Heaven and Earth Clash. In Russia, Collision with the Abyss. In Thailand, The End of the World, the sky collapsed and the land collapsed.
Not like Clash of the Titans, is it?
No.
It's not Day After Tomorrow.
No.
Geostorm.
No.
2012.
Same genre.
San Andreas.
Keep going.
Famously Armageddon.
Similar one.
Deep Impact.
Correct.
Right.
Deep Impact, yeah.
We
You got
that.
there. Film number 5. In Finland, this was released as Hey, we're flying.
Airplane.
Correct. Film number 6. In Israel, this was released as The Date That Screwed Me.
The Date That Screwed Me. The Date That Screwed Me. 40-Year-Old Virgin.
No, you had a date and something bad happened, basically. And so, this date that screwed me.
Date Night.
No.
Due Date.
No, similar. Come on, we'll get there closer.
Date That Screwed Me.
The answer is Knocked Up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, Screwed. Yeah. Very good.
Film number 7. In Finland, was released as Night of the Night, and in Iceland was released as The Twilight Night.
Twilight. The Twilight Night. Night of the Night.
Night of the Night, James. It actually
Night
describes the film.
Night of the Night.
Night
of the Night. Dark Night.
Correct, The Dark Night.
I was like, what's the Night of the Night?
Next film, in Mexico, was released as Growing Up, Running and Tripping. And in Peru, Pregnant by Accident.
Not Knocked Up.
No.
Growing Up, Running and Tripping. Boyhood?
Nope. The Pregnant by Accident is more applicable.
Juno.
Correct.
Love it.
Next film, in Mexico, Vaseline. In Hungary, Pomade. And in Taiwan, Hot Prodigal Son.
Hairspray.
No.
Vaseline.
So similar.
Grease.
Yes.
Sorry, I should always that. Vaseline. Is that a brand?
I don't know. Maybe. I guess. No, maybe it's a product. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Next film. In Malaysia, The Spy Who Behaved Very Nicely Around Me.
What?
The Spy Who Behaved Very Nicely Around Me.
The Spy Who Behaved Very Nicely.
So why might a country have changed it to that title?
Shag Me, Spy Shag Me.
Yes, it is.
Really?
It's Austin Powers because of censorship. They changed it to
that is
The Spy Who Behaved Very
hilarious.
Nicely Around Me.
That is so cumbersome. Brilliant. I love it.
Next film, in Danish, was released as The Spy... Oh, sorry. In Danish, was released as The Boy Who Died in Chocolate Sauce.
Willy Wonka.
Yeah, Willy Wonka,
yeah. Died in chocolate.
Next film, in the Netherlands, was released as Supernatural Super Spectacle. In Taiwan, was Devil Buster. And in Serbia, was Exorcists of the Spirits.
Say them again, sorry. Supernatural.
In Netherlands, it was Supernatural Super Spectacle.
Yeah.
In Taiwan, it was Devil Buster. And in Serbia, it was Exorcists of the Spirits.
Ghostbusters.
Correct. And lastly, in Sweden, Sooner or Later, I'll Explode. And in Norway, To Hell with Destiny.
To hell with this. Really, sooner or later I'll explode. Is it a natural disaster? No. Sooner or later I'll explode.
No one explodes in this film.
I know, I don't got it.
The answer is The Fault in Our Stars.
Oh.
I think maybe they meant to say like sooner or later I'll die,
Yeah.
but they just went with explode.
Can you imagine? It's like any moment now.
I'm gonna pop. It'd be more likely for a pregnancy movie actually to be like sooner or later I'll explode. What's interesting there is like with Fargo, because that was released in the 90s, the Chinese title and Hong Kong obviously was back then was a British territory obviously. So it was they have two different titles and just seeing how those things play out there. But James, that was the globe-trotting version of the language game.
What were they thinking?
I know.
I want to know that. I'd love to hear like the options they had and why they went with that.
I'm going to say this right now, James. When I was researching this, because it does require research, I found an academic paper that you can buy for £35 on Amazon, which is called Why Brazil Changes Film Titles in Its Marketing, like the strange translations.
Really?
Just about Brazil.
Is it a religious thing for them?
I don't know. Never been.
Don't know.
But
don't know, mate. Never been.
I don't think you have to ask them. I'm not paying £35 to find out.
No.
Anyway, that was the language game this week. It will return in future weeks with specific bespoke countries. But for now, it was a globe-trotting version.
Fantastic.
That was episode 147 of Pulp Kitchen. Thank you again for joining us. James?
Don't forget, we post new episodes of this podcast every single Wednesday, and we also have double. Sorry, you can do that.
Well, I'm also going to say we will be. If you're listening to this episode and you're like, this episode was a little bit late. Sorry, we have to go to the Joker 2 premiere. Well, we'll be reviewing Joker next week.
Joker Folie à Deux. Going to Joker 2. You know what I'm noticing with Joker? They've really put the double act. It's Phoenix, Gaga, Joker Folie à Deux.
Gaga's big.
Gaga's big.
She's
Do you know what I
good.
mean? It's like the double thing. Phoenix,
Oh, yeah.
Gaga, Joker Folie à Deux.
What? It's not just Joker 1, it's Joker 2. Two people.
There's two of them. The Folie à Deux. You get the dirt in there.
Duh. Anyway.
What is it in France?
Isn't it like...
That'll be one where I guarantee that subtitle's being changed. It'll be like funny man with also a woman for some reason, but not really. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, James, anything else?
That's all. If you guys want, the best way to support us is to please go head over to our Patreon. We make a whole extra show called Double Take, where we do news, reviews, not reviews. We do news. We do looks ahead at the future. We talk about casting stuff. It's really good fun, and that would make the biggest difference if you wanted to enjoy that. To charge you a little bit of money, and you get 4 whole episodes of that every single month for only the price of a premium Starbucks latte with extra foam.
This podcast is still James and I. It's just independently run. It's the two of us doing it. We're doing the best we can, and your support really does make the difference. So if you've enjoyed listening to us this week and any other week, we really do appreciate you coming back every week to listen to us. And if you are subscribing for exclusive content, that does mean the world. And please do continue to follow us and support us on social media, Instagram, TikTok.
See our outfits.
We've got lovely outfits. We go to premieres and all that kind of thing. And Film Bites, which is our specific series on social media. We've got some really interesting people coming up soon, so keep an eye out for that. And we just love making this stuff for you guys. We hope you enjoy it. It's
LFF
brilliant.
coming soon.
They're
really busy.
Whilst we've been recording this, they've just announced the timetable. I'm so excited. Like 3 films in a day.
We're going to see a bunch of films that are probably not coming out for 4, 5, 6 months. Some of them won't even have posters.
Yeah.
But we'll get to see them, and then we'll get a nice little sense, a little temp check for the Oscars, which is going to come very soon. That's coming up now.
It's all coming, man.
Exciting times. But as always, see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.